Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be doing the Library Loves tag. This is a tag created by Read by Jess and I will leave her original video linked down below in the description so you can check it out. Jess is running an entire month dedicated to celebrating your library and discussing your experiences about using the library, which is something that I think is so important. And through the questions in this tag, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about why I love libraries so much. So, into the questions. The first one is, when did you first go to the library or get a library card? I was really young when I first started going to the library. I remember going to the library with my mum when I was so young. I don't know if I have many memories that happened before I started going to the library. I would spend so long looking through every single shelf in the library. I really remember getting my first library card. It felt like a really grown-up thing to do. Like, it was the first membership I had for anything that was mine. I think I felt a real sense of ownership about my library card, especially, signing the back of it. It felt like such a grown-up thing to do. Very young, and every time we went to the library, I would max out my card. My mum then ended up having to sign up for the library so I could then get 10 more books out on her card. Question 2 is, how often do you use your library? I don't use my physical library all that much. I probably haven't taken a physical book out of a library in over a year. Even when I was doing my master's, I don't think I took out any academic books from the university library. The last year that I lived in Wales, I used to go to my local library all of the time because I lived on the same street as it, and I used it to satisfy my desire to go book shopping. So I would go to my library and go through all of the shelves, take out maybe 6 books and know that I maybe was only going to read 1 or 2 of them, but that experience sedated my need to acquire more books. I have such a big physical book collection anyway that I don't think I can really justify getting physical books out of the library unless it was a book that I really desperately wanted to read. I am trying to cut down my physical TBR, so getting books out of the library isn't really something that I'd like to do at the moment. In saying that, I use other services provided by my library a lot, but that's in a question coming up, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Question 3 is, have you ever had a late or lost library book? I don't think I've ever lost one, but I've definitely had a fair few fines in my time. And I don't mind paying them. It's always my own fault when I rack up library fines, and I know the money is going to a good place. So the next question is, what is your favorite thing about your library? What I really love about my library is that through supporting the library in the small way that I do, by demonstrating that there is a reason for the library to exist, so many other services are being supported through my support. Classes, particularly English as a second language classes, printing services for people to print off their CVs if they don't have a computer at home, parent and child groups. I love that because I've continued to support libraries as a grown-up, there are kids who are just like me who wouldn't have had as many books as they were able to read in their house, are able to read multiple books a week because of that continued support. My favorite thing about libraries is that they are safe spaces in so many different ways. They are places of support and encouragement and opportunity. Question 5 is, are you a browser or do you know what you're going to take out of your library? I am definitely a browser. As I mentioned, I used to use my library in Wales as a way of having the feeling of doing a book haul without spending any money. So I would just walk around and pick whatever took my fancy. And I think sometimes when you do that browsing experience, you discover books that you otherwise wouldn't have known to pick up. Which leads on quite nicely to the next question, and that is, name a book that you took a chance on. Now, I'm sure there will be lots of positive experiences in response to this question, but I have one that didn't quite work out, but I think it's quite a cute story. I remember I was probably about 10, I think maybe I was 10, when I was allowed to have an adult library card. I don't know why 10 was the age, maybe it was 12. I was young. Maybe it wasn't that I was allowed an adult library card. Maybe it was that my mum decided it was okay for me to browse the adult section. But I remember being really drawn to a book called The Unfortunates. Now, if you've heard of this book, you might realize that it's an odd choice for a 10-year-old. The Unfortunates is a book in a box. So it's designed to look like a book, but inside it are like staple bound sections of the book that you can read in any order, which, is really innovative and literary, creative, but I didn't get it. Nobody had explained the concept of this book to me. I know I definitely tried to read it, but the whole concept was just completely lost on me. But I do think it's great that I did that. Maybe one day I should go back to it and see if I can manage it now. The next question is, what is the best book that you have read from your library? And I'm going to talk about a series that Jess spoke about in her video. I'm going to talk about a series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, because I read all of these books. I think I read all but the final book in the series of a series of Unfortunate Events from my library. I absolutely devoured them. Sometimes I got actual physical books out, but I also have really vivid memories of having the cassette tapes of the audiobooks. Yes, I am old enough that I remember cassettes. I really remember being sat at my kitchen table and doing painting while those cassettes were playing. It was an absolute favourite series of mine growing up, and I'm not sure if I ever would have picked it up if it wasn't for my library. The next question is, have you ever taken out the same book multiple times? I think I probably did as a kid. I reckon definitely there were some Jacqueline Wilson books that I got out of the library multiple times. As an adult reader, I'm not sure if that's ever happened. Potentially some academic texts for university that I got out at various points, but I think that's about it, really. Question 9 is, have you ever read a good book that is set in a library? Of course, we have books like Harry Potter that feature a library. In each a series of Unfortunate Events books, normally a library crops up because one of the main messages of the series is the importance of reading, and there's always a different kind of library in each of those books. But there's also a book called the Rabbitback Literature Society, which is a work of translated fiction that has a secret literary society. And much of that book takes place in libraries. I kind of don't want to say much more about the book. One, because I kind of don't remember it. I read it quite a few years ago. But two, it was such a quirky little novel that I think you kind of have to go into it slightly blind. The next question is, have you ever used your library's ebook and audiobook services? And this is what I mentioned earlier when I was talking about how I haven't taken a physical book out of the library in quite some time, but I still do use some of their services. I use BorrowBox, which is an app where you can take out ebooks and audiobooks, and there are so many options. It is staggering the amount of audiobooks that I can read from my library. I don't know why I would have an Audible subscription when my library provides me with so many audiobooks. And also, I still have membership for my library back home in Dublin, my library from when I lived in Wales, my library from when I lived in Derby, and now my local library in London. So I get the breadth of all 4 of those catalogues, which is really fantastic. When I first heard about this service, I thought it would be really limited. Maybe there would just be classics that are in the public domain. But no, there are new released audiobooks on there. It's such a fantastic and I think undervalued service. I think so many people don't really know it exists. Question 11 is, what is the best library you have ever been to? I think objectively this is probably the library in Trinity College Dublin. Aesthetically it's stunning. It always makes it onto these lists of the most incredible libraries in the world. But I think the absolute best library I've ever been to, and I think this is a combination of it being objectively beautiful and amazing, but also me having a subjective attachment to it, is the National Library of Wales in Aberystwyth. The National Library of Wales is one of 4 national libraries. Normally you can find them in capital cities, but the one in Wales is in wonderful Aberystwyth. And it is entitled to have a copy of every single book that has ever been published in the UK. So it's just this incredible resource. It also has really old books and records that you can look at for research. There's also a museum element to it. You can't take anything out of it, but you can do like research while you're in there. It's incredible. It's such an amazing place. And question 12, the final question, is what would make you use your local library more? For me, it's definitely a bigger selection of graphic novels. I really enjoy reading graphic novels, but I don't tend to buy them just because they are so expensive for quite a short reading experience. And I understand why they are so expensive. You know, they are normally full color. So much work has gone into making them and so much expense has gone into making them, but they're just something that I can't really afford at the moment. And if my library had a greater selection of them, I would take them out so often. They are super expensive and libraries are really underfunded, so I can understand why. That's it, that's the tag. I do encourage anyone watching this to do your own version of this and answer some of the questions. I would love to hear about other people's experiences of their libraries. Also, especially if you are from like different countries, it would be great to hear about how libraries differ from place to place. As I mentioned, libraries are super underfunded and undervalued. So many libraries have closed in recent years, which is a real shame. And I think it's great that Jess is running this entire month devoted to us celebrating our local library. Anyways, that's all for me today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you in my next video.